What's going on, everyone? Welcome to Season Gaming Bitcast, episode 359. It is another fine Sunday of gaming, and we are back to talk all about it. Except our friend, the Thai guy, is not with us this week. He is at what do you call it? Clock Con? It's like the weirdest name ever.
I thought we were just going to say he was otherwise occupied, but yes,
Oh,
he
no,
is
we're
at a
making fun of
convention
him.
to play Blood on the Clock Tower.
There you go. Yeah, he's at Clock Con, him and the other 8 people. He should be having a good time. He said yesterday he's having a great time. But instead of bringing on a guest, we're talking a lot of kind of Xbox commentary. Obviously, the big Halo secret is now live for everyone. We can talk about those things. And so Hoeg and I are just going to duo it up and have a good chat today. So, Hoeg, how you feeling this Sunday, my friend?
I'm doing all right. You know, the big Michigan State college football match, which I know we're going to talk about at length here on this episode, was last night. That's always
Okay.
a difficult one. Anybody that follows college sports at all knows that rivalry games are touch and go. You never know how they're going to go, even if there's one clearly better team. I'm not sure there is a clearly better team now, but it was a really boring slogfest last night that honestly went past my bedtime, and so I barely stayed up to watch the end of it.
Okay. Did your team win?
My team did win, but they looked god-awful doing it. You ever have that feeling where you watch your team and you're like, I don't play like that again, gentlemen?
Oh, I have it all the time. I'm a Kings fan, so I get it. Yeah, different sport, but the feeling is relevant, no doubt. It's funny you say that because I was up late watching the Kings last night, where they clearly dominated, outshot the opponent 2-1, and still managed to find a way to lose. So yeah, I get it for sure. Obviously for our live audience here that's with us right at the start, good morning, good afternoon. I think it's very apparent to everyone that the reason why we are normally late is neither Hoeg nor I, so we can just go ahead and put that out there. You know what I mean? We're on time today for the most part. But we've got quite a bit to talk about. So we've got finally can talk about our Outer Worlds 2 review. We can talk about our Ninja Gaiden 4 review. Got some other game releases to touch on, and we had Fallout Day this week, as well as, like I said, Halo World Championship, the last World Championship for Halo Infinite, anyway, is happening this weekend. Right now, actually, today is the end of it, and they released the trailer and finally the footage of Halo Campaign Evolved, which I'll talk about, along with some of the commentary from Matt Booty and Sarah Bond on their next console, and just their thoughts on the industry, which I feel like we've talked about quite a bit, but just continues to evolve in various ways. So we'll touch on all of that. But first, let's get just a couple things real quick here. So we've got, Lucy is coming in with an early super chat. Good morning, my friend. I hope you're doing well. I'm running all the buttons myself here. Hold on. $10 super chat, Lucius. After 40 hours of ZA, the game starts as a 3 the first 5 hours, gets to a 7 about 10 hours in, and by the end, it's a solid 8. Too bad no one but Pokemon fans will get there. Hoeg, updated thoughts?
Yeah, I think that's interesting that you call out the onboarding, the opening of the game like that, because I tend to agree. I've had the pleasure of watching my youngest daughter, the real Pokemon fan in the house, start up ZA and not exactly get upset, but get frustrated about how little she was allowed to do off the tutorial path for a good long chunk of time. Certainly her whole first session. And all she really wanted to do was shop for clothes in Pokemon, which this game has tons of. So my updated thoughts are, yes, that onboarding that I didn't actually think of as too terribly bad when I went through it is elongated, does hold your hand too long. But I think the game, at the end of the day, winds up being excellent. It's an excellent kind of variation of what Pokemon can be in the future and certainly is right now. And watching her play through these battles and the mega evolutions and all the things that are happening in ZA has really kind of doubled my experience with the game. That I think it really works both at the level of a fairly novice gamer, although I say novice gamer only because of her age and breadth of experience. She's basically better at games than me at almost everything now. But it works for that, and it also works for somebody that's followed the Pokemon series for a long time. So I think if you can get past some of the shortcuts and the flat texture work and the removal of balconies from their fake Pokemon Paris and things that are commented upon ad nauseum online, then there's a really cool, innovative little Pokemon game here. And there's a lot to get out of it. So, yeah, I think that it's well worth anybody's time that's remotely interested in the concept that they see presented. And I think you're right, Lucius. I think the opening is rough for a lot of people.
Mm. That's good. It gets better though. I know
It's a
people tend to
solid
play
game.
Yeah, they tend to play them for extended periods, right? Because you're obviously continuing to catch additional Pokemon. I'm assuming I'm not a Pokemon guy, but yeah, so that's good. Lucy, it's good to hear from you, my friend. Good to see you. Of course, we also have this morning updated AI picks from Tide, going with the Halloween theme this week. So where you are, Ghost, my friend, and let me get this comment off the screen. Sorry. And I think we're all adorable, to be honest with you. We make
Yeah,
good
we look
ghosts.
great. I,
Yeah.
I, I lose a little definition below my chin, but I'm happy with it. I'm satisfied.
Did they? I just realized. Did they try to put some sort of goatee-ish, beardish around my mouth? Like, why is
Yeah,
it darker around my mouth?
you have a 5 o'clock ghost shadow. Yeah.
That's great. I do love the tie on Travis, though. Although he looks rather sad, or at least contemplative. I don't know.
I couldn't decide whether that was a tie or like a cutout of his sheet in the shape of a tie.
That's a very good question. I think the latter would be actually kind of funnier, but yeah, that's good. Todd, awesome picks. Thank you. Yeah, we'll have to show Travis, of course, but yeah, appreciate it. All right. Since it's just the two of us as well, I figured, and we're going to have some kind of very opinionated topics today. Chat, feel free to kind of put in your comments. I'll try to interact, get you more involved in the show today than normal. And we'll just have a casual conversation here this
A
morning.
chill
So,
Sunday morning.
yeah, let's do that. So, well, we have obviously, as with every week, the past several months, it feels like more games to talk about.
So many more games.
Yeah, and reviews as well. So we can't. Let me start with this one because we can't. At least I can't talk about the game yet. I'm not playing the early or advanced access release of Outer Worlds 2. But we have had that game for weeks at SG. Lewis did the review. I was supposed to review it, just didn't have the time. So I wanted to give it to someone that made sure they could put the time into it. And so Outer Worlds 2 review is up. It's sitting right at about an 8 average. I made what I thought was a pretty standard comment. You'll appreciate this, Hoeg. I made a comment around how a few of the reviews, maybe 2 to 3 to 4, depending on how deep you go, really seem to take an angle where Microsoft's conduct in the industry, in the world, however you want to frame it, and Outer Worlds being a commentary as an IP on capitalism and many other things in that space, they kind of correlated the two and then seemed to detract from Outer Worlds 2 reviews because of that, which was a very weird thing to me. I thought it was rather obvious that as a game reviewer, you should be reviewing the game. That Obsidian obviously has nothing to do with Microsoft's decisions in the world. So I made that comment, and generally, I think most people agreed with me and said, "Yeah, that's obvious." But I had a few people really push back, including people that have made content for some big sites, which was really strange to me. So I personally, what I've played of this game and what I've talked to Lewis about, and I've talked to Logan about over at XEP who reviewed it, and Era who reviewed it, it feels like it's higher than an 8. It should be sitting in maybe kind of the mid to upper 8s. And I feel I was a little disappointed to see that out of some people across the industry.
Well, I also obviously haven't played it yet, and I didn't buy into. I think there's like a 5-day early access right now, right? So I'm just waiting for normal day one. But I am on the record, I think, pretty vociferously saying that I really didn't like the writing about Outer Worlds 1. Part of the reason for that is that they do take this kind of evil, funny corporations vibe that I view as basically the equivalent of talking about the villains in Captain Planet as viable corporations, and the instinct to clarify or to classify that as satire is, I think, a little bit too generous to what Outer Worlds 1 put out there. And again, this isn't commentary on 2 because I haven't played 2 yet, but it doesn't surprise me that at least some folks out there are finding the writing to be a little bit on the nose or a little bit unfunny, and then taking that notion of it not being the world's best, most insightful bit of satire and applying it to, hey, also it's coming from, depending on the day, the biggest corporation in the world. So it's a little bit strange. Now, do I think that's useful to understanding whether I will like a video game? Not so much, but I kind of expect it from the Kotakus and the Polygons of the world to take whatever kind of political approach they can to evaluating a game like Outer Worlds or anything that tries to tell any kind of story. So I guess I kind of discount that already and was not shocked by seeing those kinds of thoughts in those reviews for this game. Unlike other people who apparently were shocked that they went that far and said that they shouldn't talk about those things. And I didn't see your comment specifically, Ains. It was probably not on my side of the social media world. But I have no doubt that some people took it the wrong way and said that Microsoft was worthy of the scorn or consternation that these various outlets were putting on them. I don't know whether Outer Worlds 2 does a better job of satire than the Captain Planetification of corporations in Outer Worlds 1. I don't.
Yeah, I don't either from the amount I've played, but like I said, everyone I've spoken to really enjoyed this. But then again, as we've talked about with the three of us, with Travis too, that type of humor, that type of writing, that type of role play is going to be a personal thing. So what I do know, based on the people I've talked to and what I've seen, is that it definitely expands upon the game Outer Worlds 1 in notable ways, from world design to gunplay to character choices to all those things, which is what I love about it. So I'm looking forward to playing it. I think it's coming out at possibly the worst possible time for me, which I'll talk on here in just a second. So it's one that and Ghost, which I picked up my copy of Ghost of Yotei this week. Still haven't started it, but
it's a good game.
I know. I'm really looking forward to playing that and Outer Worlds 2. Probably be my holiday games this year. So because both of those are going to require some time and focus. So Travis is in the chat. Good morning, my friend. Hope you're having fun at your con. We will we were on time today, Travis, so I think that pretty much says it all. But I hope you're having a good time, and we will see you next week, of course. So
what is he doing awake anyway? He's not on the show today. Travis, go to sleep. Think about your strategies in Blood on the Clock Tower.
Yes, this is true. It is kind of early. And then I don't know if you've played it, but just to touch on again, is Ninja Gaiden 4. Did you touch this one?
I have not. I actually don't even know what the release date is. Is it already out?
It is already out, my friend. Yeah.
Yeah, I saw clips. I don't really love when I see a review, and I saw this kind of throughout the Ninja Gaiden 4 reviews. The action is platinum tier. It's top notch, but the story and world and characters is basically god awful. That is what I stay away from as kind of the review setup. It's like, yes, you can get 9s and 10s out of that because some people just like to see the sword slash and just enjoy the gameplay, and more power to them. That's just not the way that I interact with my video games. So if you're going to waste my time with cutscenes and world building and characterization and it's going to be bad, I'm going to feel bad about the whole thing, even if the action is awesome. So when I see that as kind of the standard that I saw across multiple reviews, I stay away.
Yeah, gotcha. Yeah, that's pretty much so Alex reviewed this for us, and he's kind of right in line with the reviews, which is about 8 to 8.5 in that range for this, saying pretty much what you just said, is that, in terms of polish, action, kind of combat, it's top tier, but the characters and story are kind of forgettable or laughable at some points. So, which, in that type of game that happens, you know what I mean?
It does.
They're almost like comic books or cartoon style villains, going back to your commentary a minute ago. So, but
I'm not killing it for it. I just don't seek it out.
It's not your thing. Yeah. And again, I think this is it's a game I would play if there was nothing else out. It's not huge on my radar, but there's just too many things right now. So, but you can check both of those reviews out on our site and obviously other sites as well. And we'll talk a little more about those in the future when we actually play them. But let's get to some games we actually have been playing so that we can talk a little more intelligently about them. And I'm going to pass it to you right away with Power Wash Simulator 2.
Yes, because I was just talking about how deep lore and world building is important to me. I want to open off our conversation with Power Wash Simulator 2, which has more lore than it should if you played Power Wash Simulator 1, but is not at all about story or characterization. It is just about the act of power washing things. Now on my Switch 2, and I got to tell you, just like the first one, there's something deeply cathartic about cleaning surfaces of muck and grime with a power washer. And I continue to laugh that this is a thing in video games in my own head, because I remember however many decades ago, The Simpsons making a joke about Bart getting stuck in the yard work simulator and why he won't do real yard work when he just loves this VR yard work simulation. But Power Wash Simulator 2 is the realization of that Simpsons joke. And I just love this thing. It's got really cool technology for the dirt and the grime on these things, so it doesn't come off just like a marker wiping it off of the surface. You have to think about power of your power washer, and it has these new, I think they're new. Honestly, they upgraded Power Wash Simulator 1 so many times. I don't know whether this was part of like the DLC packages before they sequelized it. But they have these new levels that are essentially when you get finished with cleaning something, it opens up in some way, and there's a new secret thing that's dirty and muddy and grimy. So it's just a lot of fun to play. And it's this kind of zen, chill experience that I seek out pretty regularly from my video games now at this point, with the rest of life doing the rest of life things. And I know I talked about this last year, but I had Endless Ocean as my, this is not really a game, but an experience where I don't have to think too much and it has nice music. Power Wash Simulator 2 has no music, but it does have the sounds of power washing.
Also, you said it has more lore than it should, so it
Oh,
has
yeah.
more than zero.
It has more than zero lore. It does.
Okay.
And so, you know, it's kind of typical indie game. There's a mystery going on. Something's wrong in the towns, and you kind of put it together with text messages and newspaper articles and things as you go along. Still only ever power washing things. By the way, you're not getting into fights with bandits or anything. But or at least I shouldn't make these promises because I'm like halfway through the game. But I don't think you're fighting bandits with your power washer. And so, yeah, there is this kind of slightly strange background noise happening while you play the game just to kind of keep you invested. But it's really all about the power wash.
Okay. I know I've talked to quite a few people who love this game, or at least the original and now the sequel, right? In fact, Steve over at SG said he's playing it, I guess, Friday, and like he didn't even want to go to work. He just wanted to sit around and power wash stuff all day. So I
know the time goes away.
Yeah, apparently it's just hugely addicting and almost calming. Apparently, as you
It
do
is.
it, right?
It is calming. Absolutely. There is a cathartic feeling of taking this messy whatever that's in front of you and going kind of line by line and cleaning it up and getting it looking pretty. It just really is gratifying. I highly recommend it to anybody. It's an excellent way to spend $25. And the roadmap that they've got for this game, the support they had for the first game, indicates they're just going to have more dirty things for you to clean up seemingly forever. So this is one that's going to be supported for a long time. The reason this is a sequel, as best I can tell, is because they earned the publishing rights to it back to themselves. So this is one of those stories where an indie company has made a successful first game, was giving cuts to the publisher, made enough money doing that they made the sequel, and now this one appears to be just them self-publishing, as best I can tell from the title cards and things. So I love to support that. I see the indies have that success and go out and do their own thing, even if it's power washing again. But I really think anybody that sounds remotely interested in this should check it out. Chances are you don't think that you're remotely interested in this. My daughter laughs at me every time she sees me playing this and asks to play Pokemon. But do give it a try. It's just a lot of fun to be had, very satisfying, a lot of hours of enjoyment. The time will melt away. And whatever's on your mind for that day, the stresses, the things that you're dealing with, will go away in the sweet, sweet sound of power washing.
I don't think you can sell it better than that.
I love it.
And to be fair, right, it feels like they have an endless potential for sequels, given that there are always things that are dirty in the world. So they'll never run out of content, it seems. So there you go. Let me grab a couple of these comments, excuse me. So we've got Vintage Willow coming in, gifting 5 season gaming memberships, as she often does. Thank you so much, Willow. Then she apologizes for being late. Willow, you don't have to apologize for being late, I promise.
While gifting memberships?
While gifting memberships, Way too kind. Way too kind. So thank you very much, Willow. Glad to have you here. Hope you are well as always. Uh, we have a quid, we'll call it, Auramite EX super chat saying, sad to see Xbox kill its traditional console. Obviously, we're going to be talking more about this here shortly. I mean, we don't definitively know what they're releasing yet. Obviously, we can kind of take hints from the commentary and where we think things are going. But yeah, we're going to talk more about this for sure. So, Hogue, I don't think you can really add much at this point in time, but
No, I mean, I've seen the comments that the various folks have made, and I've gotten the DMs saying that I helped kill the Xbox console
it was you.
Because I said that the FTC wasn't going to win a lawsuit stopping Xbox or Microsoft from buying Activision, which, was right. But I really don't have any control of the Microsoft or Xbox boardrooms or C-level suites. So I appreciate everybody thinking I have much more power and social standing than I do. But I didn't contribute at all to what's happening with Microsoft right now. And I'm sure we could talk more about that later.
Yeah. I think we're still going to blame you. So, but for now.
Yeah, no, I accept the blame. This is actually a service I provide for my clients where I say, yeah, you can throw the lawyers under the bus whenever you want. Everybody hates the lawyers already.
Fair enough. All right, we'll get more on that here shortly. Thank you for the super chat. I wanted to call out a comment from our good friend Luke over at Xbox Expansion Pass for the Halloween season. He says, horror recommendation, Fear the Spotlight. It's a PS1 style horror game. You may remember, Hogue, I talked about this one because we reviewed it. I played it at Summer Game Fest last year, I think. It is a really cool one. Easy to play, very old school, but fun and well designed. So
yeah, I like it.
Good recommendation. And then my good friend here, Eric, known as Game Positive, gives a $6.99 Canadian to say what game deserves a Power Wash sim to cross over the most. My vote is Doom.
Yeah, just the entrails, right? You just clean up those demon pits. I think that's great. Diablo in the same vein, right? When you see those things explode and blood everywhere, like Sanctuary could use a power washer, couldn't it?
Yeah. That again, endless content. There are endless dirty things in the world, so I think they're set for plenty of sequels to come.
I want to see him do all the crossovers. I think it's great. The DLC for the first game had like you're cleaning up the DeLorean from Back to the Future.
Right.
They had all sorts of random stuff in that game, and there's every indication they're going to do the same thing with the sequel. And the technology is a little bit better. I'm not going to tell anybody that this is cutting edge, high end graphical gameplay in Power Wash Simulator, but they have spent time making sure that the muck isn't just a texture that gets wiped away, that you actually have the same kind of interaction you'd have in real life, where some of it is stickier than others. You have to use soap from time to time, a stronger nozzle, whatever it might be.
That's pretty funny. I didn't know that.
Yeah, no, it's really good.
Yeah, that's awesome. Eric, thank you for the super chat, my friend. Appreciate you. I don't have to actually get rid of the frame today. You notice that? It's right under us. It's awesome.
Just right on top.
Yeah, it makes it easier. Before we started, you mentioned Dispatch, which is this kind of comic-themed episodic title that released with a lot of famous voice actors playing roles in this game. As I understand it, and you can keep me honest if I have this wrong, I believe 2 episodes of 8 have released.
Yeah, I mean, the episodic stuff is weird on this game because it's clear that it is trying to tell one single story over the entirety of its running time. But like the Telltale games of old, they've decided for this episodic release structure, but Telltale games at least had the notion when they were releasing these things that the next episodes weren't done and they were giving themselves a month or 2 or 3 in some instances to finish up the next content before it released so that they can continue to make money and keep the lights on. This structure that they have for Dispatch, which is a game I have enjoyed, but I have some commentary on, but the structure for the episodes here is that you get 2 every week until like the middle of November. So it's just, in my opinion, silly. Right, it's just to kind of mirror what they used to do before they started their own studios. Telltale doesn't exist as it used to, and this is a new studio with a lot of Telltale talent called Ad Hoc, and they've got this episodic structure seemingly because they want to stay in the news or something at this point. I can't really tell you why they do it this way, other than the fact that it just feels bad to only get this really small chunk of almost early access type content in this game on week 1. knowing that you'll get another small chunk in week 2 and 3 and 4. So it's hard for me to recommend not just starting it in the middle of November. But if you are interested in this thing, this is... Ains, did you ever play a game called This Is the Police?
No, I have not.
So
I
it's
do
an
remember it.
It's an indie game from a while back, but the way that it was structured was that you were dispatching police officers to go deal with certain crimes. They had different skill sets. Dispatch has that as its game mode, but you aren't really buying this game just to play that little sequence within these episodic levels. You're playing it because it's a Telltale game or a Telltale type game, a narrative adventure, and it really reminds me the most of The Wolf Among Us. It's got that kind of vibe of being in another kind of comic book universe. This one is, as far as I know, wholly created just for this game. The premise of it is that you are a dispatcher that used to be a superhero that dispatches other superheroes for a corporation to go and help people that are in trouble, whether it's hostage situations or cats stuck in a tree. And your heroes have different skill sets, and whatever is going to be demanded by any given crime is going to require different skill sets, and you're trying to kind of match people up and gain levels that way. But when you're not actually dispatching heroes, you're going through a narrative plot line with your character, and the graphics are really cool. They're very comic book looking, very cartoon looking. And as you said, the voice acting is like Aaron Paul from Breaking Bad and Jeffrey Wright from, I think, everything, Westworld. And I think he's the commissioner in The Batman. But if I'm getting any of his IMDb entries wrong, I apologize. I didn't look at them before this conversation, but a lot of good voice acting and a lot of good video game focused voice acting. I think Laura Bailey's in it. And
Nice. It's
all very high caliber stuff when you're watching the what amounts to cartoon that you occasionally enter dialogue choices into. And there is they will remember that kind of thing in the corner. So it's the full Telltale experience. It seems like a cool story. Unfortunately, I can't speak to it all because it's just not that long right now. But I think it's going to be a really good one. I think it's going to be a winner, one of the top adventure games of the year. And I love adventure games. And so I recommend it. It is a little cloying in its humor. I'm sure Travis would correct me on this and tell you it's the funniest thing in history. But it's worked on, at least by the logos at the front of the game, by the Critical Role folks, which is part of the reason why I think they've got the voice acting support they do. But it's got that kind of writing, tongue-in-cheek, pop culture reference humor that I associate with Critical Role. And so reasonable minds can differ on that. Your mileage may vary as to how acceptable that is to you. I do think it is written well for what I've played so far. It's got musical transitions like a TV show or a movie that are higher caliber than what we usually get in video games. And so I do think it is a highly polished, high-end experience. But it's just not ready to recommend yet because it's a quarter of the game.
Okay. Yeah, but I think we talked about this prior, and it didn't seem, we joked, like your type of game to begin with. So I think hearing you mostly outside of maybe the cloying humor in your perspective, outside of that, it sounds like it's really, really well produced and developed. And,
It is.
If it takes a full arc by the time all the episodes are out and creates a really kind of cool story and experience, that'll be something. I'll probably check it out after it's fully released.
Yeah, no, I think it is good. I think it's likely to be good at the end. I just don't have that to tell you.
Of course. Yeah. Yeah. That's cool. Do you remember off the top of your head? I don't have it in front of me how much that is.
I think it's 25.
Okay.
And it's not technically early access, right? Like the way this is structured in this episodic release, other Steam games that don't have this kind of Telltale lineage would release this as early access essentially and have the price go up as it gets closer to being done. But that's not the way this is set up. This is a full product release of Dispatch, but they're not going to give you the rest of the chapters until these week markers hit.
Okay. All right. So let's see here. So it's 20, just to make clear for everybody. It is a $30 game. You can get it 10% off right now for 27. And then the release schedule is each week, it looks like you're going to get 2 episodes. So the entire series will be out. It is 8 episodes. The entire series will be completed by November 12th.
Yeah, mid-November.
So, yeah, there you go. So that's not too bad. Alex said in the chat, it's obviously far preferred to Telltale, where to his, you said the same thing. It's like at first they would say it's like a month later. Then there were episodes that were like 3 or 4 months later, and it felt really disjointed by the time you were trying to play through the whole experience.
Yeah, no, it
So this
was.
is
And they
it's
didn't
better.
hit their timelines, even the ones that they promised. So, like, that
Right.
was part of the issue with the company way back in the day, right? I was playing the Wallace and Gromit adventure games or the Monkey Island adventure games from Telltale, and they would say it's coming in 3 months and it would just slide because they were actually making it behind the scenes. That's what's
Yeah.
strange about this. Yes, I agree that I prefer that it's all done in a month, but I also then say, all right, why aren't you just releasing it on November 12th? Like, what
Yeah.
is this all about?
Yeah. I don't know if they're just trying to make it feel more like a TV show or something. It seems kind of weird. Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's okay. I'm glad to hear you're enjoying it more than maybe you thought when you originally saw it, and
Yeah, I
I'm
didn't
looking
love the
forward to
demo.
trying it. Yeah, yeah, cool. All right. We also got the return of, I would say, kind of a really classic IP that many people love in Katamari. So we got Once Upon a Katamari releasing this week, and the first Katamari game in a long time. New Katamari game in a long time. You mentioned this. Are you playing this one?
I am. Yeah, I got this one. This is actually a favorite of co-counsel's, Mrs. Hoag's.
Okay.
And so I looked at the reviews on this because I don't really trust the Katamari Damacy series based on interactions decades ago at this point where I just wasn't a big fan of the iterations that they released. The overall review structure of this game was that this was a return to form. This was going back to the first Katamari, a similar kind of experience. And if you haven't played one of these games, the premise is that you're a little alien guy and you've got a ball, a Katamari, that you roll around these very detailed areas. And I say detailed because there's a lot of crap in them, not that the graphics are very detailed. But you pick these things up, they attach to your ball, and as your ball gets bigger, you can interact with bigger and bigger things in that world environment. So you start as a tiny thing and you're collecting cockroaches and little kind of Japanese board game pieces, and eventually you can pick up houses and mountains and dinosaurs with your Katamari, that kind of thing.
Sounds
This
like
one,
such a crazy concept that
oh,
it's
it is
cool.
crazy. It's absolutely nuts, and it's Japanese humor throughout. So it's got this kind of fairy tale or children's book structure of telling a story where it's the king and the queen were cleaning their offices, and it's just got this drawing of them cleaning, and the premise is absolutely stupid because it's the king of all cosmos, and he throws a scroll and destroys the earth and the moon and all the stars in the sky. So you have to rebuild them by traveling back in time to the world before it was destroyed. And so the premise of this particular Katamari is that you're in these different eras of time and collecting all these various things and putting these stars back in the sky. But overall, it's the same game. You're a little guy, you're rolling a ball, and you're trying to advance up these kinds of size spirals to meet the requests of the King of All Cosmos before the time expires. But it's a lot of fun. It's very goofy. It's got great Japanesey music. And I really do think this is a lot of fun to play and a lot of fun to experience. It is definitely not going to be for everybody. But if you like the ones going way back, I think the last Katamari is like 15 years ago.
It's a while.
I think you'll like this one.
Okay. Yeah, I see. I was looking through some reviews, and basically a lot of people saying it is a really good, if you like the series, a really good return, and probably one of the best iterations of it since the PS2 era, which is obviously going back a very long way nowadays. So that's
Yeah,
good.
it's kind of weird to see actually on your screen right now in 2025 because it isn't a lot different. They didn't try to remake the graphics, so it looks like a PS2 game. It's got a better frame rate than those ones would have had and a higher resolution, but it looks like a PS2 game or how you remember a PS2 game looking.
Yeah.
So your mileage may vary on whether that's okay with you. And I know tolerances differ greatly as to Japanese humor, and Katamari has it in spades. So
Yeah. Fair enough. Fair enough. Well, just to quickly touch on, I can't touch on a whole lot of what I've been playing because, as usual, I'm playing a lot of multiplayer. So, continued playing Battlefield extensively, and obviously with a lot of games like in Halo Finals, I'm sure many other shooters or live service games, a lot of Halloween themed events going on right now. So, been collecting cosmetics and whatnot, and obviously we're going to talk more about Halo and Xbox here shortly. I did want to mention on Battlefield. the season one, a big update coming in a couple days. So they released all the details of this. Season one comes on Tuesday as we're recording this, or maybe you're listening to this. It is adding 2 new maps along with a game mode, new weapons. The season one starts of the battle pass and those cosmetics and everything else that's going to go with that. And then Insider Gaming and a bunch of other places are reporting they now confirm that they are shadow dropping the Battle Royale on Tuesday as well, which is very big news in the shooter space anyway, because Warzone is kind of the in the military shooter space, Warzone is the go-to, but a lot of Call of Duty people really looking forward to this. It's supposedly named RedSec, and the guy who was working with Activision Blizzard at the time and led the strategy of shadow dropping Warzone is actually the guy leading this for Battlefield Studios now as well. So a lot of big space or big things happening in the Battlefield world. That game is continuing to crush it, and that's where I've been spending most of my time. So I can't talk about a whole lot outside of that. I will comment on Chronos real quick before I get to some of the other games you've been playing, Hogue. So I mentioned Chronos again, just because it's Halloween time. I figure I'll talk about it. I was really high on it, then I was kind of like middling on it, and now I'm kind of like back in a little bit higher again. It's very Dead Space-ish, which I've talked about. The only thing that continues to grind on me a little bit, it's very repetitive. It's very kind of linear, and I'm doing the same thing over and over again. But the environment, the kind of blooberish, I think I said last time, kind of psychedelic nature of it is even expanding as I've gotten further in the game. I'm about 2/3 of the way through it now. And so it's really hard. I want to finish it in the next week or two so I can kind of talk holistically about it. But if you're looking for a kind of creepy, Dead Spacious type game that looks beautiful, runs beautiful, has creepy environments and kind of alien combat, it's one you should probably check out for sure. So
Just to backstop that, I haven't bought it yet, but it is on sale on the PlayStation Store.
okay.
I did see that they put that up this week, presumably for Halloween. So it's
Yeah,
not a
probably.
big sale. I think it's $10 off, but it's not nothing.
Yeah, I just wish, I don't know. Maybe it's going to suddenly take a turn, but I'm through quite a bit of the game now, and I just wish they would get a little more creative with the encounters and kind of what you're doing moment to moment. Um, what I think Silent Hill F did really well, even though as we know, Silent Hill's kind of combat and kind of themes there are very basic typically, but
Yeah,
it
no, I would
mixed
argue
up.
it's bad in combat, which is strange because I really love that game, but the combat is basically bad.
Yeah, it's the worst part of the game. I'd agree with you, but I think what F did really well is mixing up like what you see, what you experience, the different. I don't want to spoil anything, but different things that kind of happen. It keeps you on your toes a lot better than what Bloober is. Bloober Kronos is, where I feel like I'm just going from this point. Okay, and then it's kill some enemies, next save spot, kill some enemies, next save spot, kill some enemies, next save spot. So yeah, I don't know. Anyway, there was some other stuff that came out this week that you've talked about playing as well. So hit me with it.
Yeah, I mean, the biggest one, of course, for me is that Slots and Daggers finally came out.
I
Right? So
know.
Slots and Daggers came out on Friday, and I was so enthused about this game, and I think the developer is not charging enough for what it is, that I gave away a few copies myself. If you followed me on Twitter, you saw that. Not that you have to. I don't recommend it. I'm mostly just whining about Michigan football and things over there. But I did give away a few copies of this game because the developer is releasing it for $5 or so.
Wow.
And this is one of my favorite experiences of the year. So if you haven't checked it out, Slots and Daggers is a roguelike slot machine in which you are picking the reels that are available on the slot machine, like a sword, a dagger, an axe, a shield, gold coins, a health spell, whatever it might be. And as they come up, you're fighting enemies that appear on the screen of the slot machine in front of you. It is a very simple premise. It is a very simple game to understand and to play, but it has the cool complexities of a roguelike that I enjoy so much of, you've got these artifacts on these runs, the reels that you can add to the slot machine as you go are building up synergies. You're looking for overpowered builds, if we can still use that term for your slot machine. And I just think it's a really cool, at bare minimum, toy that has all of this tactile graphical features that have the coins shoot out of the slot machine when you earn them and have the various kind of old school 60s slot machine sounds and lights around them as you play that I just could not possibly recommend Slots and Daggers more. I hope he kills it. I hope he becomes a multimillionaire from this because I really think that it's a very cool design, and I love it when people make things that I haven't seen before and make them so cool as Slots and Daggers. So check it out. I really love it. I think it's $5 or maybe $6 right now.
It's $8 retail or MSRP, not retail. It's $8, and then on Steam it's 30% off, so it's $5.59, and there's a free demo as well if you want to check it out.
Yes, and you'll get a lot of time out of that demo if you want to check it out and you don't want to spend your $5 willy-nilly like. I think my demo shows that I have spent 4 or 5 hours in it. So
nice. Okay.
Check it out.
Yeah. Yeah, it's definitely one I've seen a lot of PR around it too, so it seems to have definitely hit a mark there, which is great. You love seeing that. So cool. What else you got?
Is that not enough, Ains? I do have more.
Enough. Give me more.
I do have more. So there was a game, an indie game on Steam that I really loved that I don't know how old it is, but I think it's pretty old at this point, called Stacklands, in which you have cards that are just kind of strewn about an old forest space, and you have humans that go and take berries out of berry bushes, and you need enough berries to feed all your humans. And this is all represented by cards. You stack them on each other. Different stacks of cards make different things. So if you've got wood and stone, you can combine it to make a fire pit, that kind of thing. I don't remember the actual recipes for Stacklands, but it was a design I really liked and I thought would be picked up more by more folks. Wasn't. But there is a game that released this past week called Decks of the Damned that has the Stacklands kind of approach to having card recipes go and make things, except now you're vampires and you are trying to survive the night in a Halloween type setting and building coffins and altars and making blood sacrifices and all this good stuff that I have been enjoying. Again, as is expected from me by now, with a roguelike kind of thing put on top of it in order to have your meta progression make sense in the indie world of 2025. But I have enjoyed this one quite a lot. I haven't played it enough to fully recommend it just yet, but it would be a surprise to me if it isn't just as addictive and fun as Stacklands was before it.
Gotcha. Yeah, checking it out now. It is kind of funny, right? But I think we joked about that the other week, which is like there's so many combination card / roguelites now. And I don't know if that's just a product of Balatro being so popular or what, but it's crazy how many there are. So Decks of the Damned is out. Yes, it is on sale for $8, normally $10. So you can check that out as well.
It's the big spender hour with Hoeg.
It's funny because you play so many of these games and they're like $5 to $10 games, but I would imagine that you're basically buying a half or 3/4 of a full retail game constantly, but you're just getting all these different experiences, so it's cool.
Yeah, which is what I love. And usually when I go and do these things, when I go to the eShop on the Nintendo Switch or I go on Steam, I put in my head I'm going to spend $20 if I can find it. I'm not just going to spend 20 on whatever, but that's where I want to end up. And oftentimes that's 3 or 4 or 5 experiences if you can get the right sales and what it is that you're looking for. I've got way more that I've actually played this week, but I don't think are really necessary to talk over here in the Bitcast. But I highly recommend anybody that likes gaming as gaming and not just AAA man shoots or RPGs or anything else, which are great and I love. But you don't need to just live there. There's all these other things that are out there to be experienced, and you don't need me to mention them. You can find them on the Steam library or the eShop on your own. It's just really hard to do with the however many games come out per day.
Yeah, it's nuts. I actually feel, you almost feel bad for some of these really kind of one-off or small self-publishing things because the odds that they're actually going to be recognized and hit something are just so low. It's like hitting the lottery. So, yeah. But cool, man. Well, always appreciate it. I always look up all these games as you say them if it's something I haven't seen. So it's good stuff. Yeah.
I'm glad to be of service. I love this stuff. I love gaming, obviously.
Well, let's move on to kind of our main topic here. And, I'll probably talk for a little bit here, Hoeg, because I know it's not Halo's not your bread and butter per se. But we talked about this a while ago. I get people that come on the show once in a while, or not on the show, excuse me, but comment around my thoughts on Halo or where Halo's going, just because I was so kind of deep into that community for a while. So yesterday we get the official premiere of Halo Campaign Evolved, which already pissed off some of the old heads of Combat Evolved. But essentially, what this is Halo Studios now remaking or reimagining, I think is even a better word, for the original Halo Combat Evolved in Unreal Engine 5. As I said before, this was a badly kept secret. A lot of people already knew this was coming. And it is made with a partner studio as well. And for the reason I believe, and many people believe anyway, to really get their feet wet in Unreal Engine 5 so that they can then go off and make, the next iteration of Halo in the new engine and be competent at it. Additionally, of course, it's the first time that Halo will be on PlayStation. It's launching next year for obviously Xbox, PC, and PlayStation 5. And I'll be honest with you, I'll be pretty surprised if it doesn't end up on Switch 2 in some form at some point down the line. So we'll see. If you don't know exactly what this is, so this is, Combat Evolved came out in 2001. It was remade, I think, in 2011, something like that, 2012. That era, and this is that game again with a few changes. So they are obviously the visuals, the sound, all that stuff. They're updating. They are adding 3 additional kind of prequel levels to this game, which tells some more of the backstory between Master Chief and Sergeant Johnson. We don't know the breadth of those, or if those are like 5-minute little things, or if they're actually full, hour, 2-hour long levels. And it is also adding some what people would call modern sensibilities, and yet further pissing off the old school Halo people, of adding sprint, and adding a few other things, updates to certain weapons and other things in the game. So um, I have a lot of mixed feelings on this one. I will obviously buy this. I will play it. I will probably enjoy it. I'll love it. Um, I see the points around that people have around kind of breaking a classic. In fact, if I don't know if you saw any of this, Hogue, but some of the original developers from Bungie on Halo CE have been pretty vocal about some of the changes here in a pretty negative way.
I saw a whole
So
conversation about rocks being moved from one of the developers.
There's a famous so the mission they chose to show was called the Silent Cartographer, a very famous Halo mission from the original campaign. And there's a well-known spot in that game where you finish on the beach and you go up this mountain pass. And basically, once you get over the mountain pass, there's 2 hunters. And hunters, especially if you're playing on the harder difficulty, can kill you very quickly. And so it's a known part of the game. Well, the original developers put rocks and stuff there, so you couldn't get the warthog up there, right? Because otherwise you can just drive around and your turret can shoot the hunters and kill them easily. And obviously they've moved those, and you can now get the warthog up there. So those are little things that new players, or even old players, a lot of them aren't going to care too much about. But if you're an original developer that did something for a specific reason, and you see that changed in a classic game such as Halo CE, I kind of get it, right? I get their point. The other thing they called out, for instance, is there's a part in that same level where you go into the installation, and as you're walking in, right at a certain point, there's enemies that come out and music starts playing, which kind of elevates the mystery, because you don't really know why you're there when you're first playing the game. You don't know what's happening, right? Or what this is. And the classic Halo music starts playing, and it's a really kind of nice, mysterious kind of element to playing Halo CE. I remember when I was younger playing it, and it just really wraps you up in that experience. And basically in the demo, they show the guy just sprinting through it, you know what I mean? Just running through it. And so the music doesn't time with what you're doing in the level like in the original. And so the developers said it completely ruins the immersion of why it was designed the way it was designed the original way. So I don't want to spend too much time on that, because I get the complaints. On the flip side of that, this is a 24-year-old game. 25-year-old, that's what they're celebrating next year, the anniversary when it releases. And I saw someone else say, to put into perspective, in 2001, when Halo CE released, that would be like remastering a 2600 game from 1976. Now, obviously, the technology curve there is a little different, right? But you get the point of, like, this game, I think, is older than people really realize. It's 25 years old. And it goes to show 2 things. It's probably okay if you update it and get some new people into it with some modern sensibilities. It's fine. It's fine. The original's still there. The remake is still there. That's faithful to the original. You can play those. The other thing is that I think it's honestly a credit to Halo C of how far ahead of its time it was when it released from a design perspective, that those things are still looked at as being fantastic today. But there are aspects of Halo CE, as much as I love it, it's probably one of my favorite games of all time, bar none. And it changed the gaming industry, that are dated. You know what I mean? Running around the library and running around the same corridor
Ugh,
for
the
30 minutes
library.
straight. Yeah, I mean, it just wasn't great design. You know what I mean? It was tense, and the flood attacking you constantly. I get it, but there's a lot of things of that game that could that could stand to be updated. So I'm of mixed opinions about it. What I will say is it's obvious they want to celebrate Halo by introducing it to a new audience. Halo has been on Xbox and PC forever. I don't know how much of the audience is, on PlayStation is going to care. Anecdotally, there's excitement, but we said the same thing about Gears, and Gears Reloaded apparently sold quite poorly on PlayStation 5. It's just an old game being remastered. Halo, I think, obviously has a lot more weight in the industry than Gears does, but we'll see. We'll see what happens. Let me get your initial thoughts here before I add some other stuff about Halo.
Well, I mean, I think like a lot of people, I have a long history with Halo. I was really, really, really impressed by it when it came out on the original Xbox. I remember being super enthused about the flashlight button on the
Yeah,
original Xbox because that was just a super cool looking thing back when that game came out, that you could have a beam of light come and change the way that the environment looked around you. That was just not what we were doing at the time. And so I'm entirely in agreement that Halo was game changing. I remember really, even after GoldenEye, there were still some questions as to whether first person shooters were just really only going to ever be designed for the PC, that's where the first person shooter experience really truly lived. And could we have that be something that worked on consoles? And Halo came in and said, yes, this really works on consoles. So I think it's worthy of celebration. I have no issue whatsoever with it going over to other consoles. I think that's totally fine.
me neither.
I don't love the console war as an entire kind of genre of social media posts or other conversation starter. So that I think is a waste of time and energy for the most part. But I do have general concerns with remakes and modernization, like the one you described with the music and whatever level you were talking about. I have another
Silent
anecdote
Cartographer.
that
Yeah.
I saw from a game that released this week that I actually forgot to mention because I was so kind of nonplussed by its arrival, and that is Plants vs. Zombies Replanted came out.
Yes.
And I love Plants vs. Zombies, and so I got this. It's fine, I guess, and there are some reviews that say it's a high definition remaster of like a phone version, which it might be. I don't think it's super obvious that that's all it is in the actual release. It's okay. But I did see a social media post from the music composer of Plants vs. Zombies that talked about how they had set up dynamic music to have it kind of layer in as more zombies attacked you and the drums
Hmm.
come in and all these various things. And that she played the game replanted version just now, and it all comes in with the full blast music to start. And it's just clear that when you cross enough kind of institutional knowledge lines for these remakes, you lose some of the reasoning by the way these were made originally. And so I think Plants vs. Zombies has the same thing that you described with Halo, which is to say, when you get separated enough from why these things are the way they are, you move rocks around, you have music come in differently, you add sprint in a way that maybe isn't conducive to the tension you want in the level, I think you do lose something. So it wouldn't surprise me if Halo 2026 loses a little bit of whatever that magical spice is that made Halo 2001 what it was. And I do think that's going to be a bummer for some folks. Some folks are going to play this thing in 2026, and they're going to say, really? That's what it was all about? That's what people were lording over me for 25 years if I was only a PlayStation gamer or only a Nintendo gamer or wherever this game winds up being? And I think that's a shame because I do think Halo deserves its place in the pantheon. And I don't think that this process necessarily delivers that in the way that some people are going to expect it to in 2026. But overall, I have no problem with it being a project. I guess I just have doubts that just based on the early stuff that we've already seen on social media and from the designers that we talked about, that this project is going to be one that actually captures that magic. I'm not sure it's possible to.
I agree with almost all of that. Yeah, I think I know why they're doing it. I guess to a degree, I get it, but you're right. Same thing we said. It's just like it just feels like I don't. I think your last statement there is probably the most accurate one, Hogue, which is I adore Halo CE. I mean, I put it on a pedestal way up high. And it did things for the industry I don't want to rehash again, that some people don't even realize it did for the industry. But it I don't know if you can appreciate it the same way today if you've never played Halo. Because it's just the industry's moved on for 25 years, and it's a very different thing today. I can go back and I can see and play and remember what that was like and why it was so special, and I don't know if that's going to be replicated today by a new player. And to your point, you lose even more of that when you make changes to it that don't necessarily fit with the original design intention. So the other thing I think is really weird here. So the big thing is like, okay, Halo's on PlayStation for the first time. Okay, 25 years later, it's great, whatever. But then what do you do, right? Because now you're in a place where, okay, you've got a PlayStation audience. They've played Halo CE, which is way back in the storyline of Halo, right? And then presumably your next content drop is going to be your next iteration of Halo. Now, we don't know what that's going to be. It's kind of in a messy place, right? You have Halo Wars sitting out here. You had Halo 5, which at the end of that, you scrapped that entire story and just bypassed it. Then you create Halo Infinite and you end on a cliffhanger, what I think is the best story going in Halo, and then you scrap the plans for expansions there. So now what do you do? Do you come back and you create a Halo name that continues that story at the end of Infinite? And if you do that and release it on PlayStation 5, what are you then telling people? You can play Halo CE and you can play this final Halo, but all these other Halos. It's a very
Everything
weird.
was fine in the middle there. There was some stuff. Some people shot
don't
each
worry
other.
about all this. There's like 40 years of story, right? But you have Halo like MCC out there, right? Like Master Chief Collection is arguably one of the greatest collection of an IP out there, along with Orange Box, right, and a few others.
I think I'd go with Rare Replay for my favorite, but yeah.
Rare Replay is a great one. Yeah, I mean, it's not one IP there, though. You know what I mean? But yeah, I get it. So like, again, I'm weirded out by this. It's like if I realize MCC as it's bandaged and duct taped together was a very weird project to begin with. It took took Halo Studios 343 years to fix that because of the crossovers. But now it's amazing, right? You go back and you can play all those games and they all link together and it's fantastic. And it's like if you were really, really going to do this to bring PlayStation players on, why didn't you go with MCC? That makes a lot more sense. And again, I think the reason, and I'm just guessing, but I think the reason is because they were moving to Unreal 5. They needed to get their feet wet. And they said, okay, we'll just take the most probably narrow scope of the Halo games, which is CE, put that in Unreal 5. It'll reignite what they hope, reignite a passion around Halo, and then we'll just move on. But I still think it's a weird game plan of how they get a new audience interested in Halo.
It was, and it's a weird game plan that they did with Gears of War, right? They only brought over number one.
Yeah.
So
not even a great. It wasn't even a full remake, really.
Yeah. So I think Microsoft is getting this weird get your feet wet, but don't necessarily commit kind of strategy. You see this in large entities from time to time, right? We're not exactly sure what's going to work and what's not. So we're going to do these half measures. I would expect if Halo takes off on PlayStation that they will have to bring over kind of 2 and 3 at least as a concept in some form or fashion, whether that's a direct MCC port or Unreal versions of 2 and 3 that maybe they don't try to sell through to everybody so much, although they won't skip platforms at that point because they're just trying to make as much money as possible. But the project really would be to bring Sony fans into the fold so that you can advance the Halo ball doing something else. Now, of course, none of that makes any sense if you don't know where you're advancing it to. So are you continuing from Infinite? Are you doing something brand new? Are you going to instead pick up a Halo name game and just have it connect more directly to Halo 1 if that's the only thing you're bringing over. Now, you don't want to just obliterate 2 and 3 from the record because so many people love them. But, I mean, these are the kinds of things that get the executives paid the big bucks and get fired if they make the wrong choice, because these are hard decisions, even with an intellectual property portfolio that has been very strong for you in the past.
Yeah. Yeah. I said I was going to include the chat today. Let's get some of these comments. So Joe, shout out to the Trophy Room and PlayStation Show, our friends over there. So Joe says, I think you completely reboot the franchise. I think I felt my heart drop in saying this, because again, you're talking about, imagine, and I know it's not on the same level, so everyone put pitchforks away before I say this comment, but imagine you just said we're going to release a new Star Wars and reboot everything top to bottom. I think that's like, you've got 25 years of not just the Halo games, but comics and graphic novels and like 20 books, and you've got all this stuff that's out there. And I think just saying we're going to make Halo CE, Campaign Evolve, which even annoys me that you made it CE but not
that
Combat
name,
Evolve.
man. That name.
It's cringy. But and then just say we're just going to start over would probably drive me off a cliff. Quite.
Well, I like your metaphor or your comparison to Star Wars, because that is what Disney Star Wars did, friend. That is what The Force Awakens does. It says everything that you thought you knew, just reset it. We're going to tell you the same story with worse characters, and we're going to treat them more poorly throughout the next 2 movies. And we hope you love it. Welcome to Disney Star Wars, friend. Now, we know how that worked out for Disney. If Microsoft tried to do that with Halo, it might work out the same. Only Halo, as beloved as it is, was never the international global phenomenon that Star Wars was.
Right.
So, like, Star Wars is the biggest kind of tire fire, car crash, train wreck, whatever you want to call it, in intellectual property protection history. This would be as bad. It just wouldn't start as big as Star Wars would. But I think Trophy Room might be correct in that that's the most likely version of events here from Microsoft's side of things, if the Sony fandom picks up Halo like they're hoping they will.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm gonna try to just wish that one away and pretend that wasn't said, Joe.
Wish it to the cornfield.
Yeah. A side note here from my good friend Biz, who is a diehard Gears fan. Have they confirmed Gears E-Day for PlayStation yet? Confirmed? No, but you can bet the house on it. I would bet that'll land.
Season
there.
Gaming does not endorse betting houses on anything.
Maybe, depends. I don't think it'll. I think that'll be an exclusive launch for E-Day on Xbox PC, but I would almost bet everything that it'll go to PlayStation eventually. Minneapolite, good friend, shout out to him. He says, I've never played Halo, so I'll let you guys know what first impression it gives in 2026. I shouldn't have highlighted this comment because for shame, sir. For shame. Okay. It's fine to be a PlayStation fan. There's nothing wrong with that. To just be so non-Xbox that you haven't even played Halo in your life, that's a problem. That's a problem. You need to fix that. So, and again, like, the weird thing is, I know him. We talk on Discord quite a bit, and he is a PlayStation guy. So, but here's the thing. It's like Halo's on PlayStation now. Well, no, it's not, right? You're getting one game out of like 10 or 12 or however many total Halo games are. You're getting one game, and you're getting a revised version of that original game. So again, what do you do then, right? You play Campaign Evolved, and you're like, oh, Halo's cool. I want to play more of it. Okay, well, you're going to go to PC or Xbox because they don't have another plan for PlayStation, at least in the short term. So it's just a weird play.
All of their plays are weird right now. Like, that's the Microsoft story true. In 2025, right? At the same time as this was announced, we got Fallout announced for the Switch, which is great, but same deal. What do you mean? What kind of support
Fallout
does that
4
actually mean?
Too.
Yes, like, Fallout 4.
Yeah, Thanks. Right in the
middle. Definitely not my favorite of the Fallouts. And also, it's just strange because Microsoft had this home run smash hit with the Amazon show, and they just didn't appear to be ready to actually monetize that at all. It's just really odd for a giant corporation. You say, hey, if this hits, we do these various things, and nothing for like a year plus. We're going to be past season 2 of that show by the time this releases on the Switch. We don't know what the future of Fallout is proper within the Microsoft franchises. So Microsoft deserves all sorts of scorn this year. I think it's actually directed in the wrong ways as to like bringing Halo to PlayStation and doing some of the other things that they're doing. The marketing campaign of this is an Xbox, I think, is ultimately fine, but they are not a well-oiled machine captained by a strong leader on gaming right now. And that might be the future for Microsoft, that they just are not super enthused about gaming on the whole. We got stories this week about 30% profit margin requirements and all these things that are very difficult for anybody to meet. But this story of we aren't sure what's going to come next in Halo, except we've got one of our people out there saying the future of Halo is multi-platform, which is great. So they're committed to it, kind of, until they're not, until one of these doesn't go well, and then you don't really trust Microsoft to actually be committed to any specific direction. Like, that's the story in my mind of Microsoft in gaming in 2025.
Yeah. I got nothing to add. And then Philly Barcode, who has been very vocal in our chat about Halo CE being remastered, why try to alter a beautiful piece of art? Yeah, I'm not going to argue with you. I mean, I'm there. It's, as I said, we've said our commentary on that. So, now I got to find that comment to get it off the screen. Oh,
Isn't that the
boy.
truth? Yeah, there needs to be a button, StreamYard. Hey, fellow folks at StreamYard, I know you're watching this broadcast. When you've got a chat up and you forgot to take it off, there needs to be a button at the bottom that just says remove chat.
Yeah. Sorry, live viewers. This is always fun. Honestly, we could probably just leave this one up because thank you, Hoeg. You're fast.
Yeah, I found it. It's okay.
Okay. Yeah, I was gonna say we could just leave that one up. It was worth repeating. Anyway, yeah. So I think that's where Halo sits. I would say if you are a Halo fan, World Championship today, ending with a note. They did announce some other nice things, no pun intended. So they're bringing Halo Fest back next year, which is to celebrate the 25th anniversary. So they're gonna do a big weekend event in Seattle next December, and they're kicking it off on Friday, which is really cool, at the theater in Seattle with a symphony orchestra concert of the Halo soundtracks. And they're inviting all of the composers from all of the Halo games, going back to Marty O'Donnell all the way to Halo Infinite with like Gareth Coker, to come and join the group as well. So I think that's really cool. They're gonna do a bunch of stuff at Halo Fest in the convention center. My guess, and I'll bet right now, I'm sure other Halo guys are thinking the same. My guess is that is when we get the tease, just a tease for the next Halo game. Will be next December.
They've owed us a tease for a long time. I feel like they should be further down the road.
I promise you they are not.
Yeah, no, I hear you. I think that is in fact the case. It just feels like the timeline is extended.
Yeah, they've been a mess over there, quite frankly. I've talked about some of it. So someone asked me the other day when we get the next Halo game, and I said if I'm a betting man, I'm saying 2028 would be my guess. I would think that the next Xbox console, which we're getting ready to touch on, will release in fall of 2027. And I would think they're probably trying to get Halo ready for that. But if I'm, again, betting my house, it is they don't hit that mark and we don't get the Halo game till 2028. That's my thought. So let's shift over then to those comments around the next console we got comments from Sarah Baum, we got comments from Matt Booty, and we have the report of the 30% profit margin, as you said. So we can kind of tie a lot of these things together, I think. But let's start with the console piece. So Sarah Bond comes out. She says talking about the Ally X, which we talked about with Travis last week, of course, and it being $1,000 kind of portable device of what's next, right? What does this mean for PC console? We've talked about that on the show quite a bit. And Sarah Bond comes out and says, I don't want to give it all away, but she says, quote, it's going to be a very premium, very high-end, curated experience, which seems to lend itself, at least logically, to what we had discussed previously. And I think other channels and outlets are obviously talking about, which is this is most likely going to be closer to a PC hybrid console than we've seen in the past. It'll be higher end, more performative than we're typically used to seeing in the console space. And it will bring together what we've seen out of the Ally X and Xbox PC app, which is bringing those digital storefronts to a single device that you can plug and play. I think it's a good idea. I like it. I'm kind of curious around how will the market like it? Because it feels like you've said this better than I have before, which is they've given up competing with
They have.
PlayStation and Nintendo. They can't, right? And so maybe they're taking this approach of we're generally a third party publisher. We're going to be on Xbox, PC, and PlayStation and Switch to various degrees, right? But we will still offer a high end device in the console space, and I use quotes there, for the people who want it. Now, I am one of those. I'll buy it day one, and I've wanted a higher end console for many years now. So I like this, but I don't know what target market is there for this type of device.
Yeah, well, I mean, I would say, in my view on this, they are definitely leaving what I would consider the mass market, right? That the mass market, the middle, the folks that are going to spend the most money, that are the most reliable purchasers of your goods and services in the middle there, are going to go to Sony PlayStation. They are yielding the ground, and there might be another competitor from Google or Amazon or any other big tech company in the future, but it's not going to be Microsoft. Nintendo is going to take the Walmart version of the market, the smaller, lower end, lower performance, but more friendly to kids, more friendly to families. You don't really care about the resolution of these textures type gameplay. And Microsoft, I think, as that third party publisher that you mentioned, Ains, is looking to make something that's going to be high end and boutique, is not just going to be more performative, but also much more expensive. I don't think they have to stay tethered to this notion of, well, we're not going to get any mass adoption if we leave 400, 500, 600 too far behind. So if PlayStation 6 is 750, and I think those are realistic numbers now at this point, is potentially the mass market for video gaming, then the Xbox, whatever crazy thing they call it, butter,
Gonna have
in
an X
2027, in 2028 is going to be $1,500. And they're going to say whatever. And we're going to use that not just as the high-end boutique market, which probably doesn't exist in any great score, but we think we can build it with our name and our publishing powers. But we're also going to be able to show off what our developers can do, what these games actually look like, with a console under your TV that is not tethered to making sure that everybody that's got $500 in their pocket can buy it. So I think that's probably the concept behind the scenes. I think it makes all the sense in the world from a kind of macro perspective. But like so many things from a strategy point of view, the execution matters so much. You actually have to hit, this is materially better looking than the PlayStation 6. Like, you have to hit that marker to get your $1,500 or whatever you're going to sell this thing for. And you need it to be that in order to have that market space for yourself. If you wind up with some kind of Series X version that looks and runs mostly like your main competitor, you're not going to be able to do that. It's going to be a failure. I can't sit here and tell you whether the Microsoft engineers have the right concepts in mind for these things behind the scenes, whether they're going to hit the markers that they have to hit in 2 years, 3 years, 4 years time. This is a hard thing to do. This is why tech companies look at video gaming and say, nah, that's a little bit too tricky for me. And I'm going to go and I'm going to make PCs, or I'm going to make PC games, because at least that high end has proven itself to exist. And the high end under the TV is still essentially a guess that probably exists, that there are enough Ainses and probably Hoegs out there in the world to make this make sense, at the bare minimum, to have the factories making the chips and putting the boxes together to sell. And then from there on to actually have an ROI and maybe not get to 30%, because I don't think anybody in consumer technology of any kind is going to get up to 30% on a regular basis as their margin of profit, but to be more successful than they have been in the past. So I think it's a good strategy. I think it's a good concept. I have my doubts that management at Microsoft has the wherewithal, the testicular fortitude to actually go forward with the engineering docs that they would need to have and the numbers that they would need to put on the price tag to make this actually make sense when it comes out in a couple years.
Yeah, I think all of that is fair. I think there's some additional thoughts there. I'm going to highlight some of our community thoughts too.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think GameFire calls out, which we've talked about here too, and they've been very vocal about. I know Phil has said this many times, and whether you believe him or whatever, the numbers are the numbers, which is the console market itself isn't really growing, right? And to your point, they know they can't compete in that lower end space. Nintendo's wrapped that up. They know they've lost the competition on the console space directly to PlayStation from a global brand identity space. So you're right. I think okay, they go up, and I think that's what Eric says here too. He says, "What are Xbox's chances against Sony, who can sell a $500 console competition? Low. Go cheaper, lose to Nintendo. Only way to go up is price quality." So I think that's that's probably tied into their thought. And I think exactly as you said, they will have to make it. And I believe I said this in our Discord. So you and I are thinking the same, which is like, if you're gonna sell, I think there's two selling points to that thing. So let's assume for a second it's 1,200. We'll just throw a number out there.
Yeah.
$1,200 console. You're right. It has to be able to run PC settings on a mid to high range. Obviously, you're not talking about the upper range of PCs, but in that kind of mid to high range, that'll be demonstrably more performative than whatever your PlayStation 6 looks like and runs like, right? Either more like performance modes, what have you. Getting how you do that without how you get developers to take advantage of that without having the nuances or the details of what you have to do on PC to get those things to work properly is the trick, I think, in that space. That's really hard to do because we've seen it before. Like, for instance, I think it was Eric or Digital Foundry was calling. Eric was telling me about Digital Foundry running. I think it was Battlefield 6 and something else. But there's some games out there that are running better on Series X than PS5 already, and there's other games where PlayStation 5 Pro is an option, but there's just no PlayStation 5 Pro update. You know what I mean? They're just not taking advantage of it. Big games, not Battlefield, but other games. Chronos is one, for instance, that takes no advantage of PS5 Pro. But I think so. You've got to figure that out. But I think the bigger selling point is actually what Proc says here, which is having every game. And I think that's the true differentiator. So if PlayStation and Nintendo, I mean, we pretty much know Nintendo, but if PlayStation goes into next generation in a similar fashion as 5 with their walled garden, and they continue in that space where they decide to release PlayStation games, some of them on PC separately a year, 2 years post-release on console, and they continue with that strategy, which I think they'll evolve as well. But if Xbox can realistically put a box under your TV, even if it costs more, that you can plug in with an HDMI cable and it just works, it has a functional UI and gives you a high-end performance, but you can also log into Steam. We've talked about this, right? And you can log into Epic, you can log into GOG, EA. There's way too many launchers on PC. It's rather annoying, honestly, but they'll just say Steam, and you can play your Steam games on your TV, plug and play. That's a winner in my view. Now, I don't know if that's a mass market winner. I don't know if that'll move the needle for Xbox, but I think for like people like me, that's a winner. That makes things very, very nice.
Yeah, no, I think it could work. Absolutely. It's a lot of logistical negotiation there just to make sure that Valve and Ubisoft or whoever are supporting the interface through your Xbox under the TV in the proper way. I think that's part of what Microsoft's working on right now, part of what it worked on with the Ally project. And I think they will succeed on that. Now, of course, even in that comment, every game doesn't mean every game. Nintendo's not coming over anytime soon. That's how they make their money, is by being the fullest walled garden ever. And so they are not going to be bringing Mario or whomever over to the Xbox. But I do think that Microsoft, if they want to sell that high-end boutique box, is going to have to figure out the graphics pipeline, is going to have to work with people to get some material difference on graphics side between PlayStation 6 and whatever Xbox Next is called. I really do think that. So I think it's both. Because yes, the Steam library is nice, or whatever other library you want to attach to it. All those things are good. You can sell those that way. The fact that Sony releases onto Steam is very helpful for that argument. But I don't think that's enough to sell a double price kind of console over whatever PlayStation 6 is offering at the time.
Yeah, I agree with you. I don't think it necessarily moves the needle. And, the option of entry-level gaming PCs is still there, of course. So you have to then rationalize.
You bring in the laptop class, yeah.
Yeah, you have to rationalize, okay, buy this $1,200 console that in theory will have some limitations as comparative to a PC, right? Which you can obviously use for other tasks.
Everything might be an Xbox, but the Xbox is not a word processor, right? So you can't draft your commercial lease over there.
I mean, it'll probably have Copilot and Teams if we're being honest. So let's, do what you got to do.
I'm not comfortable setting up my law firm with my Xbox. I'm sorry, Microsoft. It's not going to work.
Copilot can help you with that.
Sure, I'm sure it
Um,
can.
yeah, yeah.
It'll tell me to go buy a PC.
Lucius says, "Isn't it weird that most of Microsoft's announcements still aren't coming to Switch 2? COD, Forza, Halo, all announced with no Switch 2 announcement. Didn't they promise COD to Nintendo in court?" Which is a question I will throw to you, my friend.
Yeah, they signed a contract with Nintendo. Call of Duty will come to Nintendo. They didn't promise it in court as much as they verified the existence of that contract in court. But we don't need to get into the Activision side of things too much on this score. I think what happened, as is evident now as we proceed through 2025, is that Nintendo didn't give away a lot of dev kits to anybody. So Microsoft appears to only now be in the full pipeline for Switch 2. That's the Fallout announcement I talked about earlier. And I do think Microsoft is going to advance all of their properties really probably to the Nintendo Switch 2. I think the Switch 2 is going to be one of the most successful consoles in the history of video gaming. I think Microsoft and everybody else knows that at this point in time. And so I think we'll see more of those Fallout type announcements in the future. But I think everybody got delayed. I think that includes every other publisher, not just Microsoft, that might otherwise want to participate in the Switch 2. Ubisoft seems to be the only exception to that rule, and I think that's probably because they had such strong support for the Wii and the Switch. Like, Ubisoft was always super invested in getting on the Nintendo ecosystem, even when it didn't work out for them. So I think Nintendo probably prioritized them with their dev kits. But we see that even in the indie sphere, where it should be fairly easy to just change your graphics priorities for the Switch 2 version of a Switch 1 game, and even there, it's been delayed. We just saw an announcement this week, I think, for Ball Pit Switch 2 version coming out soon, and that's clearly the case that Devolver Digital didn't have the dev kits ready to go for Switch 2 at the time either. So I think that this is all a logistical piece of the puzzle, and Nintendo, at some point in the past, appears to have had trouble launching the Switch 2 internally, behind the scenes, because the Switch 2 launch window appeared to slide a little bit even when we got the April announcement this year, and then appears to be kind of an extended launch window with its third-party partners in a lot of ways. And I think that's really the Microsoft story here. I think Microsoft has given every indication they want to put their games everywhere. The Switch 2 is not an exception to that. The Fallout announcement makes that clear, but their pipeline is slower than it otherwise should be.
Yep. Well said. Well said. Yeah, it's going to be interesting if we ever, I mean, Nintendo is very guarded, but it'll be interesting to see if we ever get the true story of why that launch slipped with the console and what happened there. If it was just manufacturing, something obvious, or
yeah, absolutely. It could be a boat got stuck somewhere. I mean, I don't know, but it seems clear that there's these instances of the windows where it's like, okay, that April announcement of the new release date in June was probably the original window for the console release, like if you look at the way everything else worked. And I think development slowed down for some of their stuff internally, and they really wanted to hit this monthly cadence. So they also stopped it up for that. But I wouldn't be surprised if we get an internal story from a Jason Schreier type character, if not Schreier himself, a few years down the line, maybe after the Switch 2 generation is over. But I think there is a timing component here at the top of this year that definitely happened.
Gotcha. All right. My good friend Snap-on Schmitty, $10 super chat. Anyone willing to pay $1,000 for the ROG Ally X should have no issues with $1,500 plus for next gen Xbox home console. I mean, in theory,
you already
right?
spent the money. I mean, it's like, yes, you're not wrong that if I'm a high spender, I'm a high spender, but there is also still friction there, right? The richest people I know are perhaps the most, how do I say this gently? Cautious about spending money on luxury items. So it can get to a point where this seems like a good idea, but this doesn't, especially when whatever the PlayStation 6 looks like is right next to it on the store shelf.
Yeah. That's what I mean. There's definitely a market there, right? I'm part of that market, but how far that stretches, where that goes, what that does globally, right? Because that's the big conversation in the console space too, and why PlayStation has been, even through their own faults, which we have talked about aplenty on this show with PlayStation and their issues with things, they kind of are a little more insulated from that damage, is because of their brand identity. Their global distribution is just stronger on that front. So yeah, it'd be interesting to see. Hope you're doing well, my friend. We've got a back-to-back super chat from Don Lionheart, which I'm going to get to. So let me read all these first. $5 super chat to start us off. Today is my grandma's birthday. Can I get a happy birthday, Doris, from the Bitcast crew?
Happy birthday, Grandma Lionheart.
Happy birthday, Doris. It's her 90th, according to his follow-up super chat here. So happy birthday on your 90th, Doris. Let's hit that century mark. I think in 10 years' time. Yeah, that's about right.
We do math here, folks.
He also says clarity not very responsive plus lots of LZ holding. I don't know what he's referring to there too.
It seems like a Pokemon reference. You certainly hold LZ a lot, but I don't know why that. Oh, he's playing ZA.
Gotcha. Sorry. I didn't finish the super chat, Don. Apologies.
Hey, at least I could look at that and say, what have I been holding the left trigger on a lot? And it's Pokemon ZA.
There you go. So thank you for the super chat, Don. Glad you visited her. Hope she's doing well and having a good birthday. So follow it up. R might EX with a 2 quid super chat says the ROG Ally X won't shift 200,000 units in 2 years. I don't know what the sales figures are. Obviously, I think that is a niche product in terms of global market. So that wouldn't surprise me if it's lower. But yeah, I think that's what same comment we're kind of talking about with an expensive console, right? Yeah.
Yeah, well, we're making the comment on whether there's a market there, and we're guessing. So is Microsoft as to whether there's a market for that high end, because Ains buys it, even Ains and Hoeg buy it, even 10,000 people buy it isn't enough to make the entire logistics manufacturing program make sense for a company like Microsoft. So they have to go through this data process, analyze the markets, and come up with a number that they think would be okay for this price and this product. And everybody is always guessing at a product launch, and they hope that they're right. I think there probably is enough to sustain a high-end console entrant in terms of people willing to spend money, even at that $1,000 plus level. But I'm guessing too.
Yeah, exactly. Yep. And as Alex just said in the chat, the Steam Deck's considered niche as well. You know, it's not like the Steam Deck has sold 20 million units. You know what I mean? It's a niche product. Most of these things are. This is, I think, the bigger point that I wanted to touch on, which Prox calls out well here, just for perspective, is the Xbox will have console exclusives in the future. Example would be games like Peak, which isn't on consoles right now. So interesting. So you reverse that, right? Whereas console exclusives, that phrase has always been the first party studios are making those games only for that walled garden. Flip this on its side and you're saying, okay, Xbox has the only console. Again, we use the word how we traditionally know console. But if you can plug and play that in your TV, but you have access to PC games that PlayStation and Nintendo don't have, that's a different way to look at it. So slots and daggers on your TV, Hoeg. You sold yet? Buy that $1,500 console to play your $5 game. Come on.
There it is. Yeah, no, I think it would be an inefficient use of my $1,500, but I don't think it's not correct that there are definitely going to be things that are available on PC that maybe don't make a ton of sense to bring over to mass console that you can maybe jerry rig into working on your Xbox and feeling good about that experience. And that is certainly something that could sell some folks on the Xbox Next.
Xbox Next. I like that you're just running with that. I mean, it sounds better than most of their console names. So
it'll be something random. You know it will.
Yeah, it's true. All right. So on that note, just to continue on this thought or to close out this thought, so we get Matt Booty's commentary, which you kind of touched on, or excuse me, the 30% profit margin, right? But along those lines, Matt Booty commented, and this kind of spread like wildfire this week, where he said, quote, "Our biggest competition isn't another console," which they've been talking about for a while, to their credit. "We are competing more and more with everything from TikTok to movies." And I saw some people, we were talking about this on the SG Discord about Alana Pierce was commenting on this months and months ago, and some other kind of the big industry people saying like these kind of media companies, right? Everyone is competing for time, and time is finite. We all have, we pick every week, we spend our time on various games or activities, and there's just so much to consume from just everything, right? There's so much to consume, more than we could ever consume in our lifetimes. And that is just broadening day over day, year over year. It's broadening out. And so what Matt Booty's essentially saying, not that I have to translate this, right? It's like their view of this is that we have to do everything in our power from a gaming company standpoint to take some of that time, which of course then translates to take some of your money, that they're competing with. And that's focusing on competing directly with PlayStation and Nintendo is old hat. That is not where the market is today or where it's even going. And they're going to do it, however, to get in front of as many people as they can in as many places as they can to try and take some of that time and thereby money. So I don't think this is anything new. It's just another frame up of what they've been saying for some time now, but that's the commentary that's
I
spread.
tend to agree, but people take whatever Xbox or even former Xbox officials say and frame them in the worst possible light. I agree with what
It's a
you said.
pastime.
It's a discussion about time and time being finite. And I honestly think this is Microsoft saying we're all in this together on the gaming side, right? That we need to grow the gaming pie. Then we can figure out how to slice it, but we need to grow it against social media, video platforms, streamers, whatever else it might be. I actually think movies, for the most part, are not in the winning position on any of the media pop culture frameworks, but that Xbox and Nintendo and PlayStation are all in it together here as against everything else. And so we need to just be pitching to people that video gaming is where they should be spending their leisure time. And as you rightly say,
Right.
Ains, leisure dollars. And then from there, we can split things up. So I don't know whether that'll work for them. I mean, I think Sony is an interesting player in the field because they tend to get pretty big in their own britches when they have success generations like this one, and not want to really talk to anybody and set rules for gaming that are maybe not conducive to that growing pie concept because they're happy with their size slice. So I think Microsoft, having definitively lost the mass market war for console sales, is in a weakened leverage position to make these kinds of statements. But I think it's exactly right. They are focused on the right thing, at least in what they are saying. I always tell people you actually really have to follow actions more than words. And Microsoft is floundering in terms of actions. They take different tacks seemingly by day or the wind direction. And I would continue to follow that and recommend people do that. But with this statement, that's exactly what they should be focused on, which is to say, we need gaming to be big, and then we can worry about how much gaming we sell.
Yeah. Yep. Exactly right. And again, this isn't new. They've been saying this for a little while now, but you're right. I mean, we have to see at the end of the day, it's what they produce and what they provide to us and the value that that provides for each of us individually, whether or not that's going to work. And they've tried, they've kind of been all over the damn road for the past couple of years in moving this direction in a very disjointed way, to your point. How they bring this together collectively in a unified vision that is, quote, successful by their own metrics, which are now Microsoft's metrics, which are not easy to be successful at, as we're discussed.
Yeah, the current rumored metrics are insane, but I think they're insane by design. Like in general,
Agreed.
that's a corporation saying, we've looked at this and we don't love this investment, and so you're going to have to really show us something. And I think this is probably what Phil Spencer was facing when I talked about it in my rant earlier this year, which is to say he lost the room, right? They are intrigued by the shininess of artificial intelligence, as I think a lot of tech companies are, and I don't blame them for that. But then they look at this 60, 70, 80, 90 billion dollars they just spent over the last few years and say, man, it would be nice to have that in our bank account, and say, okay, well, then we're going to punish you and we're going to ask you to deliver profit margins that are fairly crazy for video gaming and for consumer technology in general. And Microsoft is struggling with that, or Xbox Gaming is struggling with that right now. And I think that is a legitimate part of the story, even though I think some people are telling that story a little bit wrong online. That's not really rare for online.
No. Yeah, that's exactly right. The 30% is crazy. I agree with you. So, just for perspective, for people who don't really kind of follow these industry figures or whatnot, right? It was reported in quarter one of fiscal year 2025 for PlayStation. Sony reported that they had finally gotten to 16% profit margin for the first time since before the pandemic. So, the first time in the entire PlayStation 5 generation, as successful as that console has been, and as successful as their sales have been on PC and other places, they are just now getting to the mid-teens in profit margin. So put that into perspective of what Microsoft's trying to accomplish, or I should say Xbox is trying to accomplish to meet Microsoft's demands. 30% is pretty wild. That is pretty much unheard of in this industry, meeting a 30% profit margin. It's very high.
Which does tell the
So
story of cutting costs as severely as they did with those layoffs on the gaming side, and
it's what
with
Schreier
some other
reported.
things that we have
Yeah.
seen, which is you
Yeah.
can knock a lot of numbers off the cost side of the profit margin equation, but that's a short-term solution. And you do get this kind of understanding that Microsoft doesn't necessarily believe in the gaming project so much. And we could look at that from afar, and that's what I said earlier this year. But now we have a little bit more detail around how little they believe in the gaming project right this second.
Yeah. Yeah. It I tend to agree with you. And again, there's some parts of this obviously that Hogue and I are speculating on. But I agree with you, Hogue, that I think looking at this on the outside, knowing how these corporations work and having a good kind of history in this kind of stuff, I think that it does feel like this is a vice grip of kind of like, okay, we've invested 100 billion. Let's just say 100 billion because ABK itself was, we know what that was. But there's all kinds of other investments we've talked about for years on the show now that
Yeah.
Xbox has made. So let's say 100 billion. That's a big investment, no matter how you look at it, even for a company as big as Microsoft. And you're right. I think they're at the point where like, okay, we are making money hand over fist in the Azure space, in the cloud space. We're investing heavily in AI. What is this gaming industry stuff going to do for us? You've got to prove to us that this is worth it. And it's tough to think about it that way, especially with things we love, in the gaming space. It's a weird conversation to have. I hate the corporate aspects of this industry sometimes because I live that in my daily life and I don't want to mix business and pleasure, for lack of a better phrase.
You don't want to talk about profit margins all day on the Scene Gaming Bitcast?
God, no. But it is sadly a reality, and it is what is driving the topics that we're talking about with what's going on at Microsoft Xbox. And as we always say on the show, don't be mistaken. The same conversations are had at Nintendo, the same conversations are had at PlayStation, and every other at Steam, every other kind of gaming space have the same conversations. For whatever reason, either because they can't keep their mouth shut, they like talking about it. Microsoft's in the spotlight more. It just seems to be we talk about this with Xbox more than the others because they're just more out in front of it. So
I honestly think it's the Westernness of Microsoft. You just have more coverage.
Could be. Yeah. Got a couple super chats to get to here. Minneapolite says $5 super chat. Microsoft corporate has decided the focus is on high margin software over low margin hardware, same as most tech companies today. I think that's
it is in the name.
Yeah. I think that's absolutely a factor. Yeah, I mean, margins are everything for these companies, and they make cutthroat decisions based on those margins, which we have seen again, not just in Xbox, but in every company we're talking about. It's just a fact of life that we have to deal with. So you're spot on. Fat Boy Horror, £5 super chat says anything to the talk that Amy Hood CFO is asking Xbox to deliver profits of 30%. Yeah, obviously this super chat came in while we were talking about it, my friend. So I think we probably already touched on this, but yes, I think it's reliable reporting from what I've seen. This is not a rumor. This is very reliable reporting.
Well, I think it's both, right? It's not confirmed by Microsoft proper.
True.
It's not a press release, but I don't think there's any reason to disbelieve it.
Exactly right. Yeah, it's reliable. And I think because it's not just one person. This comes from a few areas. If you read into this, and it just makes sense. It speaks to a lot of things that Hogue and I just discussed. So, yeah. That's what it is. So thank you for this super chat, my friends. Let's get that down. All right. Just looking through my notes here. Anything else you want to touch on that space? I think we covered that pretty to length, Hogue. But
yeah, no, I think I'm good on Xbox. I'm probably good on Xbox for the foreseeable future, but I'm sure we'll come up with something to talk about it on next week.
I'm sure they'll say something this week that we need to touch on, but
they do that.
Yeah. So, yeah. Any other? Feel free to leave a comment, leave your thoughts. As always, share this out. We love having these conversations, despite, as I joked about it, being very corporate in this space sometimes. The only other
I thought that's how I got this job. I thought that's how I was invited to help on the Bitcast, was because I talk corporate nonsense.
I mean, I we've joked about it, right? I like it because there's a million shows out there. We don't always get everything right. We make mistakes, plenty of them.
Sure.
But I think that your experience, my experience, and Travis's experience do lend some knowledge and credibility and insight to things that a lot of other shows don't. And that's why I like what we do. That's why I like having these conversations. So I'll go ahead and pat ourselves on the back if you didn't notice for that one. But
I've never been
despite
able to
getting
do
things
that
wrong.
very well. I can't.
Me neither. That was the best I do it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Fallout Day was this week. As we kind of already touched on a couple aspects of this, I just wanted to mention it. So if you missed it, Fallout Day, they announced season 2 premiere. Or I think we already knew the season 2 premiere of the show is December 17th. So that'll come right in time for the holidays. And then they did announce Fallout 4 Anniversary, as we touched on earlier, is coming November 10th. So on PC, PlayStation 5, and Xbox, this is going to be Fallout 4 with all 6 expansions included and a new menu that'll easily allow you to install and curate your experience with over 150 of pieces of creator content that have been made in their mod system over the past decade since that game has been out, which is pretty cool. I like that. It is also, they announced, coming to the Switch 2, as Hoeg said, in 2026.
Yeah, later.
Yeah, they just said 2026. And of course, Todd Howard had to say there's more Fallout coming, which, of course, there's probably more Fallout coming. But what I think is hilarious, as we already knew prior to Fallout Day, is there will be no new Fallout before we get Elder Scrolls 6. And Elder Scrolls 6, I have to imagine, is still a few years away, at least. So when we're going to get Fallout 5 or whatever the next Fallout mainline project is, who knows? So, a little disappointing, I think, to your earlier point that Fallout, as big as it is, and for people who don't know, and I've said this before, Fallout as an IP is bigger than you think it is. There are something like 100 some million BAU or monthly active players in Fallout as a whole. So that includes Fallout Shelter, 76, the Fallout games. But it's a very, very big IP for Bethesda and Xbox. And to Hoeg's earlier point, the fact that you released this show, which ended up being one of the higher end gaming shows that we've had, and
they knocked it out of the park with the show.
Yeah, I mean, you nailed it. The hype for season 2 is very high, which is great, and I'm excited for it too. But how are you not supporting this better from a gaming perspective, or weren't prepared to support this better from a gaming perspective? It's just crazy to me. It's crazy. You already said it. I don't think you have much to add, but
I don't. No, it's clear they didn't expect it, but you still have to plan around that a little bit. And Microsoft's not the only kind of company guilty of that. You do want to be conservative with your money on these things. I think famously Disney wasn't ready for Baby Yoda to be as popular as it was coming off of The Mandalorian season 1. But I mean, if you're launching a video game show, the notion should be that you are hoping that it reflects back on the ability to sell the video games that the show came from. So that they weren't ready at all is maybe a little bit of a surprise.
Yeah, agreed. I got one comment here just real quick, circling back, not that we haven't talked about a lot, but P3 Trans says Activision had a 30% target, and Microsoft set the target right after they studied the Activision Blizzard books. All the changes the last 2 years are towards that 30% goal. I think they are approaching it at me. I don't know if that's true. I just wanted to pull this up because it would seem to make sense. Again, I don't know if it's true or not.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know either, but I mean, all we can say from the outside is it does seem like Xbox has had these kinds of churning stops and starts with what direction they are going. I don't think things like the Blackbird project we talked about earlier that my brother obviously worked on at ZeniMax Online Studios and some of the other things that have happened make a ton of sense for what the marketing and what Phil was going out with social media on a few months before that, if there aren't some significant sea changes that happen behind the scenes as we go along here. So yes, I do think that Phil and Xbox Gaming make some promises about the Activision deal. I think that's how you get corporate proper to give you $70 billion to play around with. And I think that, yes, then once you're in the limelight, you get some more demands that you wouldn't have had if you didn't ask for that money. But I don't know that all of those demands were clearly given and everything was exactly understood by every piece of management of this organization in the way that you would hope for these kinds of things. It certainly seems like things changed earlier this year.
Great. All right, chat, you've been awesome today. Captain Chats just got here, says, "Has we spoken about Halo?" We did speak about Halo. Please go back and check that out, my friend. Good conversation, Hogue. Always fun to chat with you on this stuff.
Yeah,
This
definitely.
week, some big releases again this week. I feel I say it every week, but Outer Worlds 2 officially hits Game Pass and kind of standard release on the 29th. We also get Arc Raiders on October 30th, along with Dragon Quest. I can't speak right now.
That's all right.
Dragon Quest 1 and 2 coming out on the same day on October 30th. And I can't obviously say anything right now, but please check out Season Gaming this week. We have a bunch of coverage on everything I just mentioned that we'll be kind of talking about. So some good stuff there. And our review of Outer Worlds 2 is up as well right now as we speak. Elsewhere in SG land, I did a review of this. You can see the box behind me. This is the new Razer Raiju V3 Pro for PlayStation 5. So the crazy thing about this is it's a fantastic controller, seriously top tier. I love it to death. It is my new go-to for PS5. The day before embargo was up, which was the 23rd earlier this week, the day before embargo was up, I get an email from Razer saying that due to regulatory concerns, this controller can now not be sold in the US yet. So it was supposed to go live on the Razer site for sale when the embargo was up, and my review's up on the channel if you want to check it out. You can't get it in the US currently, so I'm sitting here with one, but you can't buy it, which is, I guess, cool for me, but sucks for everyone because I really think people who, anyone who plays shooters or anything beyond, if you don't need haptics, it doesn't have haptics because PlayStation doesn't allow that. But if you play anything else, especially competitively on PS5, this controller's top tier. So please check it out whenever you can, apparently. So that review's up. We also have a review of Painkiller. That classic IP is back. So we've just been really cooking on the SG side. If you swing by the site, swing by the channel, I'd really appreciate it. There's some great stuff out there. And of course, please share these shows out for Hogue and I on the channels. We would love that as well. Hogue,
Yeah.
what you got?
What do I have? I have my new job, still continuing to new job. So I'm still learning the lay of the land there, which means I have not made any virtual legalities or hangouts or headlines or reasonable minds can differ. I have too many show names at this point in the recent past, but you can see me on Last Stand Media. You can see me in various places online. Like I said, complaining about my Wolverines on Twitter if you're interested in those things. Otherwise, I intend to get back to video making proper pretty soon, but I'll just be honest with you. I still need a little bit more time to make sure I've got all the patterns correct in my new digs and making sure that I am doing what I need to do to keep my job and keep my family fed.
Fair enough, and completely understand. Glad it's going well, but I get
It is.
again,
It really is going well. It's going awesome.
that's great. I love to hear it. I was going to make a joke that it's right back to what we said. Everything is vying for our time, and time is finite. So, as you hang out with us here on Sunday, know that we don't take for granted you taking your time to hang out with us. So, thank you so much. Thank you for the interaction today. It was fantastic. Anyone who checks out both SG and Hoax content, thank you for that as well. Enjoy the gaming. Use your time wisely, of course. We will be back next Sunday with our good friend Ty Guy Travis. You can expect us to start late because that's what he does to us. But we
It'll be a whole segment on Blood on the Clock Tower. Get excited.
Oh boy, I may step out for a little bit, but that's okay. Everyone, have a good week of gaming. Enjoy whatever you're doing with your time, and we will see you next Sunday. Until then.
You're power washing. You're playing slot machines. Go have fun.